Okay, I want to go over a little bit what we spoke about at the beginning of the week and try to finish the sugya. Really, we should be going further than the sugya, just that I don't like leaving things halfway. That's the spoke about the fact that there was in Krias HaTorah two takonos, read the Rambam, takonos Moshe and takonos Ezra. Takonos Moshe was that we should read on Shabbos, Monday, Thursday. So the Gemara Shlo Yishu Shlosh Yamim B'lei Torah. I pointed out that the Rambam adds, like unusually, I think, just to the lashon, it's Shlo Yishu Shlosh Yamim B'lei Shmias HaTorah. It's a diuk, B'lei Shmias HaTorah. What's the? I also said last week, and I may be at least possibly wrong. I said it seems to me that in the Takonos Moshe, before we get to Takonos Ezra, so be'etzem there's no difference between the Krias HaTorah of Shabbos, Monday, and Thursday. Like, in other words, we make a much bigger deal about Shabbos, Krias HaTorah, right? Even if you don't go to shul during the week, go Shabbos. Right? That's the way we're trained. But the fact of the matter is, Shlo Yishu, the whole thing that Moshe Rabbeinu said is Shlo Yishu Shlosh Yamim B'lei Torah. So Shabbos, Monday, Thursday. There's no difference. The whole takana of Krias HaTorah was that you should go 3 days without Shmias HaTorah, as the Rambam puts it. So Shabbos is 1 day, Monday there's another. There's no difference. Why? So why Shabbos so much more elaborate and with Shiva Kriya? Because there's no need of Bittul Blacha. That's all. The Chazal were makatzer for us, no haftarah. I just get hung up on these things. I hear people say haftarah. There's no such word. It's haftarah. That's the word. Think about the Hebrews. No haftarah. But just like they didn't make a haftarah during the week because there's a bittul, it would stop people from working, and that's a concern throughout Shas of Chazal. But on Shabbos, there's no Shaila B'tul B'lacha. You have plenty of time. So there's Shiva Kruya, but we're more elaborate with it. But it's all the same takana of Takanos Moshe. And there was, I feel, a lot of nafkaminas to saying that it's not like Shabbos stands for something else. I just happened to see today, though, that Rabbi Yaacov Haber, so he says here, I was just looking if he talks about the sugya, and talks about Takanos Moshe, Takanos Ezra. And Takanos Ezra was, as you know, that we should also add in Shabbos afternoon, Mishum Yoshvei Kronos, Leidegayers. Yoshvei Kronos are people that are, why should they just sit at home and eat and sleep? So you should come to shul and have a Krias HaTorah. So he says here, Yaakov Kabeletsky, Be'ebes Shaidi Kriyas Shabbos Shachris B'Kriyas Beis V'Hei. Let me just ask you for a second. Do you see a difference between Shabbos, Beis V'Hei? He's saying Nafkimid L'Halacha, but what? Like what? Says that in Shulchan Aruch? Yeah. Are you quoting something?
Yeah. Can we skip in Monday and Thursday?
He says that? Oh, you mean the Seder Apsukim? No, but I was saying that like the Etzem Chiyuv of Krias HaTorah is coming from Shlosh Yishuv Gimel Yom B'lei Torah, right? They went 3 days, they didn't have water, the Gemara is harsh. Anyways, he says as follows, Shaidi Kriyas Shabbos Shachris B'Kriyas Beis V'Hei. Bazeh. The b'Shabbos hatakanu hui lilboidas haTorah keseder ad shigbarena. Like the Gemara says, brachas also olam yashtiv adam parshi yosef v'matzibur, that naflem b'tetzait, and you have to learn the parshas hashavua, and the whole Klal Yisrael should be learning the same parshas hashavua. We should all be holding a parshas shmois now. So he says the pshat in Shabbos morning. See, I thought we just made a longer Krias HaTorah because we have more time. No. The reason why we make a longer Krias HaTorah, says Rabbi Yaacov Haber, is because you're supposed to learn the parsha. Lilbedas HaTorah Keseder Ad Shig Berena. Avaloi Bibnei Takana Shlayelchu Gimel Yamim B'Loi Torah. Now, he has to agree that there's a Takana Shlayelchu Gimel Yamim B'Loi Torah, that's the Pshat Shabbos, but he's saying that there's no Chazach on Shabbos morning that you have to learn the Torah. Learn Torah. Mashen Ke Bebeis V'Hei Dehasab Rak Mishum Shlayelchu Gimel Yamim B'Loi Torah. And he brings a number of rayas to it, but it's a little bit different than what I posited at the beginning of the week, that there is no difference. If there's no difference, then there won't be any nafkaminas in halacha. There's a difference. So it's mashma that Krias HaTorah of Shabbos has two things, and Monday, Thursday only has one thing. What's the second thing? Like the Hechatesa. What's the second thing? So this I explained on Sunday, that after Takanas Moshe, there's Takanas Ezra. And it means, as I saw later, Rav Soloveitchik has one of these, what's the thing called, Shiur L'Kavod Abba Murray. So there he speaks about this. I think this is what he means. But he says that the Takanas Moshe, Takanas Ezra were qualitatively different. It's my word, it's not him. Qualitatively different. What's the difference? The difference is that Takanas Moshe, there was an Indian of Shmias HaTorah, which I said that's probably what the Rambam means. What is Shmias HaTorah? Nothing to do with Talmud Torah. Nothing to do with learning Torah. Has only to do with, there's like this Indian of hearing the words of Torah. And by the way, it rings true because there's value to us, like when kids know psukim. You know, it's not so much even that they know what it means, but we know the psukim. You know, haloi heima, we know. So the things that we know, the Girsa Diakasa, that we know in the psukim, it was important for Moshe Rabbeinu. Al Pi Nevuah, the Gemara says that Klal Yisrael should hear the psukim, Shmias HaTorah, hear the psukim. Nothing to do with Talmud Torah. Ezra came along, and Ezra Agav, who was the founder of the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, the founder of Torah Sheba'al Peh V'chula. So Ezra came along, and he was masakin. Let's add to this. This is what we call Takanas Ezra, Libud HaTorah. So if we're adding on to Libud HaTorah, it makes perfect sense what he's saying, because the Libud HaTorah, part of Libud HaTorah is on Shabbos, you read Shiva Kruim, and you read the whole parsha. So when Ezra, that's why the Rambam says, I understood this is why the Rambam says, that B'Yemais Ezra, it doesn't say it's Takanas Ezra, but B'Yemais Ezra, remember the lashon of the Rambam? B'Yemais Ezra, they were noyeg, it means at the time of the Gemara, they were noyeg to have Meturgabin be Metargeb. They would stop every pasuk, and someplace every three psukim, and a Metargeb would explain to the tzibur what it is we just read. What's that for? So the answer is that he wasn't mistapek with the Takanas Moshe. It's a whole different thing of hearing Divrei Torah. That's nice, but what about understanding a little bit of what Torah is? So that Ezra, the whole Ezra was I say he was the founder of Torah Sheba'al Peh. The whole gift of Ezra to this world was that he was the Noisein of Havanas HaTorah. That was his purpose in life.
So why Shnai Mikra?
I can't hear.
So why Shnai Mikra also? Is that the offer?
Why Shnai Mikra?
I mean, if that's smart.
Two things. In other words, let's say like this. I don't know if this is true. I'm making it up. But let's say Shnai Mikra is Takanas Moshe. Echad Targum is Takanas Ezra. Kilo. It's. Oh, why do you have to do it? Because yeah.
Preparation.
Yeah. No, it means that you have to live in this a whole week. Shnai Mikra. But no, I thought you were saying something else. So why do we do Shnai Mikra of Echatar? What is it? But you see, that's what it is. There's two. You see that there's two inyanim. That's all I'm trying to bring up. There's one inyan of Shmias HaTorah. It's very beautiful when you think about it. Like the words of the Torah, they should be ringing. Like just like Moshe Rabbeinu spent 40 days and 40 nights at Har Sinai getting these words. The words of the Torah should be all ringing in our ears. We should know those words. Baal Peh, Shirabs, Siba B'fiyah. These are all things about the words. Okay, so that's what we said. What Takanas Moshe, Takanas Ezra, and in the Indian of Krias HaTorah, just want to go over quickly, I don't want to spend time because we did. There's two big shilas, hakiras, that at least to me they're big, that we put out there. And I believe a third thing that we have to ask that I didn't talk about. The first thing is the famous Reb Chaim Shaila. This is brought in the Bircha Shmuel in Yavamas rather. Rabbi Haber brings this. He heard this from Reb Chaim. The Shaila of whether Krias HaTorah is a Chayvas Yachid or a Chayvas Tzibur. Meaning, what that means in simple words is it that every Yachid has to hear all the Krias HaTorah? Now think about Takanos Moshe, Takanos Ezra. Is it the pshat that every Jew has to hear Krias HaTorah, except it's a davar shebekdusha, so you need a minyan to do it? That's one way of looking at it. That would, in a way, be the simpler way to look at it. You got to run and hear Krias HaTorah. Or is it that it's a chayvas tzibur? Yes, every yachid has a responsibility to be part of a tzibur, but it's the tzibur has this, the tzibur, once you're part of a tzibur, you have a chiyuv, a tzibur has a chiyuv to be mashmiya milim of Torah barabim. It's beautiful. Now, this is Reb Chaim's chakira, but I have to say that, Reb Chaim is Reb Chaim, but it's not such a chakira. If you look at the Stibas HaCharaidim, kibat ruboy kukulai, if not all, take it as a davar pasha that it's a chayvas hatzibur. Everywhere you look, almost every halacha, every Mishnah Brura, it always comes out. They all say this word. For instance, the most obvious case is the case where if you miss a word, so there's no did that you have to hear later. Not like Kriyas HaMegillah, where it's for sure chayvas al kol yachid b'yachid. It's not like that. Listen, they're saying two opposite things. Yeah, Yashli bi tzibur means it's a chiyuv of the tzibur. The whole thing is one Kriyas HaTorah. It's like the title says. It's like achana for Kriyas HaTorah. Yeah, even Shtei Mikra falls into that. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted us to. So leave me with Shtei Mikra for a couple of minutes because I want to. I just said there's many. We spoke about it on Sunday, but there are many rayas. I'm just saying the Stibas HaCharaidim is that it's chayvas hatzibur. That's the Stibas. Last week I told a story that I remembered about Rav Fisher, Rabbi Yaacov Fisher. The Bacher went over to him and asked him. It was ringing in my ears. The story. They asked him. Zichur Moshe, when I was in yeshiva, they asked him if they're going to go to America, they're going to miss a parsha. That whole problem with missing a parsha. What should we do? So I just remember his response so clearly. He said, "What? You never missed lighting?" What he was such a you're so So I thought he was just shtuching them, but he was saying a deep thing. He was saying that if you're in this tzibur, you hear what this tzibur is lighting. If you're in that tzibur, you hear what that tzibur is lighting. The tzibur is b'chayiv Krias HaTorah. It's not like you have to go here. What? Yeah, he didn't hold like that. No, but it's not that by him everything was a chayvus hayachid. I mean, everything was playing games, but. Right, but
he had a special menu.
Yeah. But that's all right, anything, because he was always chayshish for the miyut. I mean, that's the all these chashas. But the nicest raya, I think I mentioned last night to somebody. The nicest raya in all this is the gra. The gra, I think it's beautiful, just elegant. That they asked the Kulas Sacher, that's one of the Talmidei Agra, who put together the Bais Torah. So he says that he asked the Gra the following question: why is it that by Kriyas HaMegillah, by Tzkiya Shofar, by Lulav, what else? Sheba Yavirenu Dalad Abbas Rishus Harabah. Lulav, Shofar, Megillah, anything else? Sheba Yavirenu Dalad Abbas Rishus Harabah. So a person asks the Gra, why don't you say the same thing by a Sefer Torah? You shouldn't lay it on Shabbos. Sheba Yavirenu Dalad Abbas Rishus Harabah. Now the truth of the matter is, it's a bit of a klutz kasha because the whole takana was on Shabbos. But how could it? I mean, so the Torah says he was looking for a hezber. Also, as as I made a tumult this week, you don't take a Sefer Torah here and there, so there's no issue of Sheba Yavirenu. But the Iker is the teretz of the Gra. The Gra said that all this Sheba Yavirenu is so beautiful is only when there's a Chayvas Yachid. If there's a Chayvas Rabbim, so if it's a Chayvas Tzibur, so there's no Sheba Yavirenu. As far as I said, that's because if there's a Chayvas Yachid, I want to do my Yachid. I'm so nervous that the guy's not going to have a chauffeur or something. So I stuck a chauffeur in my pocket and Sheba Yavirenu Dal Abbas. It's like an Adam Bowl al Mitzvah, you know. Chayvas Tzibur is the shul. That's the shul's problem. Though I'm going to make sure that all the things in shul are right. If you're the gabbai, if you're the president, you worry about these things. The rabbi, but I'm going to shul. I'm doing what the tzibur is doing. So the Gra says you don't find a Sheba Yavirenu by a Chayvas Tzibur. So first of all, it's a beautiful way of learning. But second of all, you see clearly in Das Hagra that Krias HaTorah is a Chayvas Tzibur. Like nothing else you see. That's the Das Hagra. So that was one Shiloh that we spoke about, and I wanted the second thing we spoke about was Rabbi Yosef Egel's Shiloh, which was also very beautiful. And Rabbi Yosef Egel's Shiloh is the whole din of Kriyas HaTorah, din of the Shmiya, din of the Kriya. Dahainu, you have to come out to Shemei Ka'ida to be Yotzeh. So if the pshat is that I'm supposed to hear Torah, like we said, that's the Takanas Moshe, I'm supposed to hear Torah. So I don't need Shemei Ka'ida. I'm hearing words of Torah, period. That's all that's necessary. I'm hearing words of Torah. They're ringing in the shul. It's beautiful. What we were speaking about yesterday, which made a little bit of a tumble, is this whole idea of taking the minyan on the train. So minyan on the train, every day that goes from Bet Shemesh to Tel Aviv, there's a minyan on the train. A guy comes with the Sefer Torah, and it's all special procedure there. They have a special car in the train, and they daven and they lade. So I just asked, Monsey Rak Lahoyer, they're doing this, it's beautiful, one of the beautiful things of Eretz Yisrael. But first of all, is that called a tzibur that's chayiv in Kriyas HaTorah altogether? Second of all, why do you take a Sefer Torah baderech to read it? That's also connected Shulchan Aruch to read it. So they asked the chief rabbi, they asked us, it's all fine. But I'm just, for the sake of learning, I'm saying it doesn't seem like a davar pashut that you should schlep a Sefer Torah onto a train and then schlep it back into your office in Tel Aviv and let it sit there in the corner all day. It doesn't seem like that's not the ruach of the Shulchan Aruch to do. And if there's a chayv, so there's a chayv. So if everyone has a chayvas yachid, can first aid. But it's a little bit fakert from the Gra that who's going to go schlep a Sefer Torah? It's a chayvas tzibur. This is the Gra said. Who's schlepping a Sefer Torah? Lulav, you schlep. You're not going to go schlep a Sefer Torah. So there's answers to that. Maybe it's a Sefer Torah shal yachid, but I'm just saying the concept is there. So Rabbi Yosef Egel wants to know if, and he brings rayas, I just showed you if you saw it, if you want to look, he brings many rayas that Kriyas HaTorah could be just you have to hear the words, or it could be that there's actually a din in the whole tzibur having to read from the Sefer Torah, and we're yotzeh with Shemei Koina. So a way of looking at it is it a din in Kriya, is it a din in Shmiya? Aliba de emes, you can go back and forth. There's a few things that this is really what I want to add tonight. There's a few things going on here, because it could be that, first of all, there's Takanas Moshe, there's Takanas Ezra. So it could be Takanas Moshe, as the Rambam says, is Shmiya. For that, you don't need Shemei Koina. Takanas Ezra, I'm not sure what he was masakin. We don't know exactly what he was masakin, but one of the things that he was masakin in all of his things, there should be 3 aliyahs, and there should be 10 psukim, and all the things that he was masakin, and Maturgamin. So maybe it's different. Maybe that's Shemei Koina, but that's really not the nekuda is the people. All of us in the tzibur are listening. We don't make a bracha on that. The people, the fellow who's lading and the guy who gets the Torah, so he's reading. So we're obviously doing two different things. Baharaya, what do we? We're doing two different things. He makes a bracha, and we don't make a bracha. Lai Shabadu, just on time. You marked the place actually. Lai Shabadu that we're all making a bracha on Shmias HaTorah. So here's what I want to know. Here's what I'm trying to work out. the guy that gets it, we don't understand what we're doing. We're hearing Torah, and maybe there's a part of it also of learning Torah, like Rabbi Yaakov Haber said. We know what the Baal Korah is doing. He's making it be heard, right? He's Korah the milim of the Torah, and him together with the Meturgim B'zman HaGemara are also teaching Torah. Understand that also. What is the Oilul Torah doing? And why does he make a bracha on whatever he's doing?
The bracha that he makes, even. The bracha that he's making is a bracha of limud Torah. In other words, the
Right,
bracha of
right.
Torah. He's not making a bracha on
So
Shvias
what is the nature of that
Krias
bracha?
HaTorah.
So,
He's supposed to be leaning.
huh?
He's supposed to be leaning.
I don't hear, I'm sorry.
He's supposed to be leaning.
He's supposed to be lading, either he's lading or the Shliach Tzibur is lading. So somebody's going to make a bracha. So, the Mishnah says that at the beginning of times, so the first guy, the Kohen, made a bracha, and the last guy made a bracha. And then the Gemara says, Haidna, nowadays, so all 7 Kriyim make a bracha. Mishum nichnasim v'yotzim. Mishum ha-nichnasim v'hayotzim. What's Mishum ha-nichnasim v'hayotzim? That let's say somebody comes in a little late, so he won't hear Chas v'Shalom the Birchas HaTorah. Let's say somebody leaves a little early, they won't hear the Birchas HaTorah. So to make sure that there's not one person in the Tzibur that doesn't hear the Birchas HaTorah, so we make the bracha 7 times. It's mugzam. No, I mean, where do we find such a thing? We make the bracha 7 times over. In case what? Somebody went to the bathroom. It's the whole bracha doesn't seem to be so. What's the purpose of this bracha? Everybody made Birchas HaTorah in the morning. The Gemara doesn't say. The Gemara just says Mevarch lefanah or Mevarch la'achreo. So here's what the third chakira, if you will, or shiloh. Did you ever hear that there's an Indian that the whoever gets the aliyah has to be motzi the tzibur and the bracha and birchas HaTorah?
They have to answer Baruch.
So the Shulchan Aruch says that people that say the bracha quietly, tos hu biyadam. But that the Mishnah Berurah says clearly, because how could you say Baruch Hu Hashem Avarach and not everybody says Baruch Hashem Avarach Le'elav? You need a minyan. It's not going on the bracha. So bracha l'chayr from the Shulchan Aruch, clearly you can say quietly, as many people do. Whatever, they're not so proficient, and they just say quietly. They don't want to make a big deal about it. So except for the Baruch Hu part of it, it's really okay. I think, and it looked recently, but I think the Mishnah Berurah says that Tov Lahader to say it in a way. If you look at the Rambam says, when he talks about the Seder, I'm sorry I'm speaking about I just don't have all the things. When he talks about saying the bracha, he says the guy should get up, say to get the aliyah, he should make the bracha ala Torah v'yanu kol hatzibur amen. It's the lesson of the Rambam, I'm telling you. V'yanu kol hatzibur amen. So I'm asking, Balabatish. Every time you make a bracha, does the Rambam say "V'yanu kol hatzibur amen"? He doesn't say it once. I looked, not by Tkiyah Shofar, not by Birchas HaTorah. You make a bracha, you hear a bracha. Yanu kol hatzibur amen. What's the amen for? What do you say to son? Was he madgish the sinyan of saying amen? To be yotzei brachas. Why you should say amen? I'm not going to argue with the Mishnah Berurah, but it also sounds mugzam. That's true with the Kehillat Shivtei Yeshurun also. You can say with everything. Right? Chazar Shashatz. V'yanu kol hatzibur amen. I guess he does say someplace you say amen. Chazar Shashatz. But there's like a dugesh here of amen.
So the Rambam is saying there's a chiyuv in the bracha?
I think that the Rambam is saying exactly what I saw today in the Meiri, which where did shoot? The Meiri here on the spot.
Because it's mashma from Rashi in the Gemara there that it's not a chiyuv in the bracha. And the whole nichnas of the yotzim is not that they didn't hear a bracha or have to hear a bracha. They shouldn't think that there wasn't a bracha.
So what if they think there's not a bracha? Go for
That's a chivas of Birchas HaTorah. It's not a chiyuv of the
No, but
bracha
why?
itself.
Why? I'm just asking.
That's not a question you can ask in all the situations. Like, why do we care?
Right. Well, but why you could ask it everywhere, but let's ask it here. It's a good place to start. What do we care that somebody should think? Hey, this place is not written to make a bracha. You must be conservative.
No, because that's the end of the sugya over there also. The end of the sugya said, they've not and so no, if he comes in, if not some late, he'll ask someone and they'll say, no, they made a bracha, but he read the psukim beforehand. In other words, there seems to be a lot of a doggage.
If a guy gets in the time of the Gemara, in other words, let's say a guy comes in late, so and gets an aliyah, so he should make a bracha.
That's the question over there.
No, but does anybody know the halacha? Zman Gemara. You understand my question? But dinner the Gemara. If somebody comes in a chain, I understand, but they don't make a bracha. But let's say he didn't hear the first bracha, so he should make a bracha. I think the Bashmai says, yeah. The Meiri says mefurish. The Meiri says mefurish that when you make the bracha, when the guy who gets the aliyah, all 7 of them, when you make the bracha, Birchas HaTorah, he has to be mechaven lahotzi, and the tzibur has to be mechaven lotzeis. So mefurish in the Meiri.
Each of the 7?
How do I know? Like I know everything else. I was looking for something else. Huh? I don't know. Yeah.
So he's every Ola would have to have kavanah
To be mechaven. So like there's 2 things here. Number one is one thing is that like we're so worried that somebody's gonna not hear the bracha, but think that God forbid we didn't make a bracha. So yeah. But why? Doesn't say why. And if we know why, it'll have a gather in this whole sugya, I think. And what is we're not telling the guy who's getting an aliyah that, listen, have in mind the whole tzibur. We say that by Amalek, we make such an announcement. By Krias Amalek. We make such an announcement. Or by Krias HaMegillah, everyone should be mechaven, be yotze the brachas. Some people say that by Parshas Parah. But the Meiri says that this is true. Trust me, Megillah Chafal from Beis, the Meiri says before that's his lashon that the Baal Kairei or the Baal Oila has to be mechaven to be Monsey, and the guy the whole tzibur has to be mechaven lotzeis, which we don't find even by the Krias HaTorah itself. Even by the Krias HaTorah itself, it seems mistimus ha'achreinim that the ikar is the shmiya. You can miss a word, and it has to do also with tzibur yachid, but it's not a choivas yachid. So since it's not a choivas yachid, as long as there's a Krias HaTorah going on, Elabai, since you're part of the tzibur, you have a responsibility to make sure that the Balkari is reading it correctly, so we correct him and we jump on him and everything else. But when you find the chuber by the Meiri, and I believe perhaps the diuk in the Rambam, that it's even more than the Kriya itself, is this bracha. And I don't even understand the nature of the bracha. By the way, I never did. I never understood, like, why making a bracha? So many brachas. We're so makbid not to make brachas. And the guy himself made brachas in the morning. He said, Birchas HaTorah. Why is it Kavod Tzibur, though? You understand it? I saw it 100 times. One thing is for sure, I'm not sure what the Kavod Tzibur is, but one thing is for sure, maybe we could explain it actually, now that I'm thinking about it. One thing is for sure, the Birchas HaTorah that we're l'kula alma, I believe. The Birchas HaTorah that we say when we're Oila l'Torah is not the same Birchas HaTorah as you say when you wake up in the morning. It's the same Birchas HaTorah, but it's a different B'chayiv.
Because if it was Stam learning Torah as opposed to a shmiya, special din, then the Torah, the bracha you made in the morning, that every yachid makes it.
It's on the Talmud Torah.
That's on Talmud Torah. So
this is a special takon of Moshe.
This is a special takon of Moshe, that it's a shmiya.
So it's Machai.
Kavod Tzibur, because it's a din in the tzibur to hear the shmiya, to the shmiya of the Torah, not limud Torah.
When you say Kavod Tzibur, you mean like in deference to the tzibur?
In deference to the tzibur, because this is a mitzvah, it's a chiyuv on the tzibur, not on the yachid of Talmud Torah.
So you're saying good, and this is what I was thinking, but I still think it needs another more hesber. But you could say that the machayev of Birchas HaTorah in the morning, Birchas HaShachar, Birchas HaTorah, same brachas, but over there the Mechayev is Talmud Torah. But according to everything we're learning, that Hakadosh Moshe was just on Shvias HaTorah, like the Rambam says, you should go Gimel Yom B'li Shvias HaTorah. That gufa requires a bracha, a new bracha. It's a new sugya, it's a new bracha. And if you make a shahakal on water, so later on I'm going to make a shahakal on a steak. It's two different mechayevim of the mitzvah. So we're just confusing ourselves by mixing it up with the Birchas HaTorah in the morning. It happens to be the same bracha, but it's on a different chefsa shel mitzvah. What is the chefsa shel mitzvah that's so important that we make a bracha? So this is the miri. This is not the miri. That's the miri. So let me quickly add in. I want to say a couple of things, and we'll have a couple of minutes. What is the chefza of the bracha on Krias HaTorah, and therefore what's the chefza of the mitzvah of Krias HaTorah? So I was talking to a Talmid Chacham about this yesterday. So he told me that there's a brisker of about it. So I mean, at one point or another, I got through every brisker of, but I dusted off my brisker of, and I'm trying to find where does he talk. He doesn't have on Hilchos Krias HaTorah. He doesn't have not Reb Chaim brisker of. So listen to this. The brisker of says Hilchos Brachas. The shaila of the brisker of was, can you make a bracha on a minhag? That's the brisker of shaila. The Rambam says, Kol davar shu minhag, af al pi shu minhag neviim hu, k'goyin netilas harava, b'shvi shel chag, in tzarech loimer minhag chachamim, k'goyin kriyas halo, b'rosh chodesh, b'chodesh shel moed, shel pesach, ein mevarchin alav. You don't make a bracha. Kriyas halo, b'rosh chodesh. We do because we don't go like the Rambam. But according to the Rambam, it's a minhag or minhag alaviyim or minhag chachamim. You don't make a bracha on a minhag. Why? Simply, the Rambam says, how can you say Asher kichanu b'mitzvos of vitzivanu? The brisker Rav goes back and forth on this sugya of how can you make a bracha on a minhag, and he points out that we who make a bracha on Hallel, so how do we make a bracha on a minhag? So I apologize to the brisker Rav. I'm thinking what he worked on for a year, and I'm saying it over in 10 seconds flippantly. But how do we make a bracha on Hallel? So he says, this is the goinus of the brisker Rav. He says, by the way, when I found the brisker Rav, I figured out where it was. I had it underlined. The Hallel, when it comes to Hallel, ein habracha dafka al choivas kriyasai. Listen to the words. Rak etzem ha'halel atzmai tiknu by bracha. You get it? You're not making a bracha on Hallel. The bracha is part of Hallel. Part of saying Hallel is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haSher kishanu b'tzivos v'mitzvot kriyas. Beautiful, right? I'm just thinking about it, like the goiness of this one sentence. Again, you're not making a bracha on Hallel. When they were masakin Hallel, part of it is to say a bracha. That's part of the Hallel. Listen to this. Kibai shetiknu bracha l'kayrei b'Torah. First in the brisker up. His raya is Krias HaTorah.
Which is why we're concerned that a person didn't hear a bracha and thinks there's not a bracha.
It's not that the bracha that you make on the morning al limud Torah l'chayra, if you never learn any Torah, you don't make that bracha. But the bracha on Krias HaTorah is a separate idea. It's a separate concept. What's the concept? It's not that you make a bracha on Krias HaTorah because Krias HaTorah is different than limud Torah. Nachbesser. That the part of Krias HaTorah is to make a bracha, just like part of Krias Hallel is to make a bracha on it. Still want to be masbered a little bit more, but that's what the brisker Rav Aval b'Hallel eina bracha dafka al choivas kriyasei rak etzem ha'halel atzmai tiked boy bracha. By shetiknu bracha l'kayrei b'Torah.
Even when it's incomplete, like on Rosh Chodesh,
I'll explain it to you. He says of a couple of lines that I had underlined, and it also says Ayin Moedim Uzvada, but I didn't look, but I wrote it, so it must be. Chol she'etzem hachleftza toin bracha lo yichbis langamim choivas kiyumayhu mishum minhag. You don't have to sit here and ask, how do you make a bracha on a minhag? You're not making a bracha on a minhag. It's a minhag to make a bracha. You're not making a bracha on the minhag. Kol she'etzem hachleftza toin bracha lo yichbis lanim choivas kiyumayhu mishum minhag. Hachalabi b'halol de kavosei. B'Shabbati, he says, I heard, and this part is well known, Mipi Hagoylachas, his father, Reb Chaim Brisker, the B'Birchas HaTorah, Reb Chaim said, Birchas HaTorah Eina Bracha Al Kiyum HaMitzvah Shel Talmud Torah, Rakta who did B'fnei Atzma the Torah Boy Bracha. That when it comes, he's talking about all the time Birchas HaTorah, even in the morning, Reb Chaim. Maybe. Listen, lashon over here. Eina bracha al kiyum mitzvah shel Talmud Torah. So it's not the same thing as like al netilas lulav. No, that's not what it is. Raktu din b'fnei atzmai. There's a special kind of a din that limud haTorah and Krias HaTorah, and maybe for two different reasons, boy bracha. So I think it says here that it talks about nashim. Nashim never, according to the way we paskin, Nashim usually, not never, usually don't make a bracha on a mitzvah sasesha as man grama or any mitzvah they're pater from. Usually. That's Bachlek's the Rosh and the Hagoy's Hashri. He says that L'kula Alma, women make Birchas HaTorah. Even though Nashim are L'kula Alma P'turis mitzvah shel Talmud Torah. Aval eina muvkais me'etzem ha'chefza shel Talmud Torah. If they're going to learn Torah, they should make a bracha because part of Torah is making a bracha. Do you understand what a phenomenal chiddush this is? The etzem Torah is making a bracha. Why is it? So here, give me 5 minutes. I'm not saying drush. I think it's halacha. I think the Gemara says. Should we maybe find this? I felt PK. The Gemara says. This is what I was thinking. Why was the Bais HaMikdash Nechram, the first Bais HaMikdash Nechram? So the Gemara says, what are the reasons? Two opinions there. What are the reasons? It says, Biplei, Shlai Baruch Hu B'Torah Tchila. Baruch Hu B'Torah Tchila. So what? So there's a famous, in yeshivas they say over a Bach, always a famous Bach, that it means that there was no, you were learning academically instead of learning religiously. And the Chorban Beis HaMikdash was because of that. The Shita B'Kubetzes tells us, Ein Mevarchim B'Torah Tchila, V'lai Tiknu Bracha La'achra, Ela B'Torah Shenikras B'Rabim, Bilvad. Okay, leave that alone for a second. V'af al pi shekvar beirach birchas haTorah b'shachar. And first of all, let me explain. He's telling us that Gemara, listen to this, that Gemara, Shlei Baruch Hu B'Torah Tchila, is not talking about our birchas haTorah in the morning. It's talking about the birchas haTorah on Krias HaTorah. They would take out a Sefer Torah and lay Shabbos, Monday, Thursday, and not make a bracha. That's what they did at the time of the Bais Torah for some reason. Like Baruch Hu B'Torah Tchila is not even going on the first thing. This is Shita B'Kubetzes B'Shem the Ritz, the Ritz, I don't know. So he says that Ki Mipnei Chashivusa, it was because of the Chashivus of Torah Koveya Bracha La'atzma K'daber Gabi Yayin. The bracha, it's exactly what the Brisker Rav says. Before sure. That the Baruch Hu B'Torah Tchila means that part and parcel, a chelik of Krias HaTorah is that first you make a bracha. Why? Because otherwise, go back to what we said at the beginning, otherwise you're not Mekayim the Takanos Moshe. The whole Takanos Moshe was what? That we should hear Shmias Divrei Torah, Shmias words of Torah. So you're hearing words of Torah. What is the meaning of it? How are we going Gimel Yamim B'lai Torah, or not going Gimel Yamim B'lai Torah, if we're not saying, explaining where this comes from? Asher Bachar Banu B'Kolav Nasalanu Torah Sai Baruch Atah Hashem Lo Yisei Torah. The whole idea here is that we need to spread this kind of a word and this concept in shul. That's the Chayvus Tzibur. That's the Chayvus Tzibur that Reb Chaim was talking about. The Chayvus Tzibur that he's talking about is everybody has to internalize and absorb 3 times a week that Torah is Midas Shamayim. And these exact words are Torah Midas Shamayim. Ezra came along and he was Masakin Nachmer that you have to also learn the Torah. Beturgamid, you have to understand it. But it's exactly what the Brisker Rav says, that the Birchas HaTorah that you say on Krias HaTorah is a chelik of the Chefza of Krias HaTorah. It's not that you make a bracha on Kriyas HaTorah. So therefore, it makes sense. Everything makes sense. The Chazal were so worried that somebody's going to miss the bracha. What does it mean? You missed the bracha. So you missed the bracha. So you're saying Meya brachas. You can say so much better. If you miss the bracha, you're not bakaris l'abri. You're coming in, you're reading without a bracha. Oh, this place is conservative. This place is reading the Torah because they're traditional, but they're not. Holding the fact that every word came down from Moshe Rabbeinu. It was dictated by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. So that's what the bracha, that's what the nusach of the bracha is, and it's a chelik of the Takana Gufa. Because people, I guess, didn't go in and out. I mean, that's the only thing you can say. But if somebody would miss it, this is what I saw in the Rishonim, if somebody comes a little bit late and gets an aliyah, didn't hear their first bracha, he should make a bracha. Even before the ha'in of Zion Kruv. So it's all the same thing. Okay, so let me just summarize in 10 seconds. That is that the Birchas HaTorah that you make on Kriyas HaTorah is part of the Kriyas HaTorah. Yeah.
It's a diak in Rashi itself. It's a diak in Rashi itself. And Mamash the exact same. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, Yomer, he'll say, in bracha bat Torah lefaneh, not al HaTorah, not al HaKriya, bat Torah. Within the Kriya
it's
itself.
not like the Brisker Rav's lashon, like my birchas hamitzvahs, like my bir bracha shabir bracha. Right. So it's not an al datilas look. And by the way, the same thing. Though, like we're here, so remember this. The same thing is true by Hallel. The bracha on Hallel is part of the Hallel. It's not you're making bracha on Hallel. Brisker Rav's mashal is k'may kriyas HaTorah. The Rambam doesn't look like that by Hallel. Okay, so that's an easy machlokes whether there is a takon of Hallel, there isn't a takon of Hallel. Yeah, the genius of the Brisker Rav is that you're not making a bracha on a minhag; it's a minhag to make a bracha. It's gishmak. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's good. Not only you can say excellent. That's a chiluk of the personal medisa. It's mufurish. Mufurish, that is the Persu Benisa. The bracha is a chiluk of the Persu Benisa. Mufurish in the voice like that. Very good. That's a good dimyan. Thank you very much. Good Shabbos.